The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy, Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy, Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy, Charles is back online.
Completely just killed the music. That was my fault. Jerry, man, I hope you're gonna have a good rest of your night, man, because having a stressful day and just coming home, honestly, coming home is for me the best time of my day because I get to see my family. And look, despite what happened in your day, if there's something that ruined it, if there's somebody, I've had many people curse me out on the street. Because again, I'm a delivery driver. People, they act a little crazy on the road and, you have to be defensive when you drive. However, despite all of the nonsense that happens, I pray you have a good rest of your night. Of course, glad you're with us today. Welcome back to the show, guys. This is the Equally Yoked Show. We are going to be getting into some incredible news that came, of course, recently, but I do want to get started with, of course, this, right? What you saw from clicking on this video, whether you're on the shorts feed or whether you're seeing this on your homepage of YouTube, glad you're with us. Subscribe to the podcast. Email me freedom at equallyyokedshow.com. Email me your thoughts. And we go from a president over the last 4 years. And this is the clip that I want to remind you and just bring you back, take you back into a little bit of a nice little timeline here. Well, it's not going to be a full timeline. I think this is really going to summarize the last 4 years for you. If you maybe have some type of amnesia as to what we went through as Americans, as people that are, that we're stressed about our economy, stressed about our wallet, stressed about where the next sort of payment is going to come from, if it's going to be enough to make our to make the ends meet that we need to provide for our family. If it's enough ends meet to provide for our family, that's what I'm trying to say. A little bit of a word salad there, maybe, or not. Dead Man Lives, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. This is what we had over the last 4 years. Let me remind you with this 60 minutes clip of President Donald Trump. Wait, not Donald Trump. That was a little bit of a joke. President Joe Biden. Here we go.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
Do you guys remember that? Because this most certainly went viral. And we clearly saw the decline even way before this. But the Biden administration kept on denying it, and they kept on lying to the public about his mental acuity and his ability to run the country, which would have been, during his time, somewhat of a powerful nation. But that I think that actually rapidly declined during the Biden administration, where we saw record inflation. We saw terrible prices at the gas pump. I mean, I remember here in California hitting $6 a gallon, a little over $6 a gallon, especially in LA. You're hitting 7, maybe 8. Gas is at an all-time low, where some states are saying some states are seeing $1.99 at the gas pump. Now, the national average is a little over $2. That is wonderful. But then we come out with this, we see the Trump administration they're talking about, what is he possibly going to say here? People were thinking that he was going to address the nation based on if we're going to go to war. Instead, maybe this was a little bit of a tactic that he used here to get people to tune in. You say Southwest Ohio, $2.24. That's amazing. Texas at $2.06. Wow. It's still $4 here. California, $4.40, $4.49. Somebody said, yep, ironically, you can thank Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for the low prices. They are underselling everyone in the world market. Now, I think this is why Venezuela is a particular focus of the Trump administration, of course, for national security reasons, but they're sitting on a lot of oil here. Tons and tons of oil. Now, there's things being discussed within the administration, within the podcasters, news outlets that are saying, well, why is he doing this with Venezuela? Why is he destroying the boats? Obviously, people are upset with that. People are trying to figure out, are these actually terrorist boats? What is happening here? How do we know that we're not destroying innocent civilians? We're not destroying boats and ending lives here? But the Congress is continuing to be they're continuing to brief them on these destroying these boats. I'm trying to fix my words here because of YouTube, but otherwise, instead, Trump delivers this to the nation, where he talks about and really boasts about the American economy, now how well we are doing. And it's interesting because if you actually watched the broadcast earlier of the Trump administration talking about the medicine prices dropping, I mean, what, 600 to 700% in many cases? But this is President Donald Trump. We went from, let me remind you, let me go back for a moment. Here, okay?
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even mentioning, even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
I mean, make sense of that sentence. Make sense of that, whatever he just said. And then we go from this. We go from that to this.
America, 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels with law enforcement, and words such as that just absolutely forbidden. We had the worst trade deals ever made, and our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history. There's never been anything like it, and I think most would agree. I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else, with a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people.
Now, mind you, as we've been rewinding back a little bit on the Trump administration from the very beginning, they've been wanting to establish getting the American people back to wealth. Of course, we saw this, or we've been seeing the conversation of an administration who wants to focus on affordability. Now, of course, the Democrats are most certainly trying to utilize, and I'm going to play a clip here in a moment, but they've been trying to utilize this word, which Trump, again, calls it on many occasions a hoax, because that's really what it is. When we look back again, when we look back at the Biden administration, we begin to see the amount of lies and the amount of times that they said that they were trying to make it affordable for American people. And what happened? We only saw insurance premiums increase. We only saw our prices, drug prices increase. We saw our gas pump, the prices at the gas pump increase. We saw groceries increase. We saw everything just go up tremendously. And we became poorer and poorer and poorer, rather than seeing money back in our own pockets. But here's the thing. The Trump administration said they're going to try to get America back on track. Now, if you remember, this was Obama saying how he would have run, how he would, do a third term if he could. These are his words here with his interview on the Stephen Colbert show. Okay, I'm going to go back here.
We missed you.
Thank you.
These last 4 years. Did you miss you? Did you ever look at something going on in the news and go, you know what the situation needs? Still Barack Obama.
I've said this before. People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what? If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines. But
Look, we can let this play on, but he's just making a joke of himself. This was Obama in his own words. And truly, could this have been how the Biden administration was running the last 4 years, where we saw Obama really behind the scenes and trying to feed? I mean, this is all obviously just, we don't know how true that actually is. These are his words. This is what he would have loved to do if he could. But I do think he had some heavy influence. However, he was on his own journey with some of the crazy, wild things that he was saying on his podcasts with his wife. We're not even going to go there. However, let's continue on with a little bit more of Trump addressing the nation. Because again, people thought that maybe he was going to address something with regards to the war, with regards to if we are going to go to war with boots on the ground with Venezuela, or Venezuela, rather. Said that wrong. And so somebody said minimum wage is bad. Minimum wage hasn't kept up with inflation. Minimum wage hasn't kept up with the prices that we're seeing at the grocery store, at the gas pump. And of course, we also have to wait a little bit longer. We're just around the corner from January hitting to where we will see an increase in our tax returns, as Trump mentions here, with some of those that are serving in the military, which God bless you if you've served in this military. If you've served in the army, if you've served for our country as a police force, as a anybody as a first responder, God bless you for putting your life on the line every day, day in and day out. Especially the cops that are working 2, maybe 3 shifts. But we have the Trump administration also saying that enlistment is at an all-time high. This is a good thing. This is a great thing to see with an economy that is beginning to boom. Stocks are on an all-time high. For people that have Bitcoin, Bitcoin is through the roof. But we're seeing this advancement of AI technology. We're seeing this advancement of so much. Now, will this turn for the better, or will it be a terrible outcome for the worse? As of right now, we're looking at a good trend to how America is going. America being the dominant force in the world. In 2026, we're going to see the big, beautiful bill begin to take shape. And all the policies, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security benefits, wonderful things that are coming our way.
For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens, career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before. They flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violent felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent. They caused war, they caused mayhem, they caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country.
Somebody said, gotta admit, he got the news riled up enough to troll them into broadcasting this, which probably likely is the case. That is probably the case with this live stream. Quite funny, honestly. But we are going to shift the focus a little bit because we can go on. This is a pretty long address here, 18 minutes or so, which if you want to listen to it on your own, go for it. You're going to see some basically accomplishments that he talks about throughout the entirety of that. But we're seeing also people that are coming up with, midterm elections on the way. We also have 2028 elections. People are already looking forward to 2028. AOC is beginning to trend in a good way. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about these Epstein documents. Some of these Epstein documents, including photos of Bill Clinton shirtless in a hot tub socializing with Michael Jackson. All this stuff that is coming out that people have been asking for. And quite frankly, it is being delivered. So I'm going to bring you to this bit of an article here. And we're going to just kind of look at some of the photos that we see here so that you can get an idea as to what has been released. Now, of course, a lot of you probably have already seen some of this stuff, but for the sake of this podcast, we're going to be looking at some of this. So it says, in pics, Epstein files new photos show Michael Jackson, Kevin Spacey. That's not a surprise. And other high-profile figures. Now, I remember when Kevin Spacey and the whole issue came out with him and that boy that he was apparently some essay going on with that. But it says here, the new batch of photos by the Department of Justice has been made public. And it shows several high-profile figures, including Michael Jackson, Kevin Spacey, posting with Jeffrey Epstein and his ex-associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. No, what's interesting too is it was being said and talked about that Kevin Spacey within Hollywood, Kevin Spacey was possibly going to make a return to Hollywood because he's been off the grid for quite some time. But here are some of the photos. We see Bill Clinton. We see a redacted individual here. Two redacted individuals there. We see Michael Jackson. Now here it says a new batch of pictures with Jeffrey Epstein's estate has been released, showing several high-profile figures posing with the sex offender. The 68 photos released by U.S. lawmaker featured political figures and showbiz stars, including Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Michael Jackson. We read that. It says the photos were made public. Okay, this was made public today, December 19th, under a transparency law passed by Congress. Here's some of the images. Now, Michael kind of just doesn't really look all there. Diana Ross also. Some redacted portions of the image there. Mick Jagger. Chris Tucker. Crazy. This is the image with Kevin Spacey there. These are the photos. This is what's being released. What are your guys' thoughts? Disturbing pedophilic quotes on bosoms to price tags for girls. What a creep. So we have several images that are released now. Of course, there's just a lot more that is being released on the daily. Here we go. It says a photo of former Bill Clinton topless in a dimly lit hot tub with his arms folded. Now I'm going to bring you into this article so you could actually see what we're looking at here. Not that you probably want to look at it. Oh boy. It says he was also smiling arm in arm with the late disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Epstein at what appeared to be a dinner party wearing a festive shirt. The locations where the photos were taken were not included and no context was provided. Now that's a little bit difficult with some of these photos because if you've got all these photos here, that are being released, you're not really going to get much context to the photos, just as to who's in them. And so whether it was at a specific party or one of these weird, parties that, Epstein had, to maybe blackmail people. Who knows? You just wouldn't get that information. You'd only really have that information with regards to some of the victims who would be providing testimony when it comes to those pictures. But a lot of these girls were young, very young. Most of them can't even remember what happened during that time of their life. Clinton's deputy chief of staff, Angel, accused the White House of trying to hide things forever. In a statement on X, implying President Donald Trump continued a relationship with Epstein after his crimes were revealed. It says the White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves for what comes next, or from what they'll try to hide forever. So they can release as many grainy 20-plus-year-old photos as they want. But this isn't about Bill Clinton. Never will be. Even Susie Wiles said Donald Trump was wrong about Bill Clinton. It says there are two types of people here. He continued. The first group, people knew nothing and cut Epstein off before his crimes came to light. The second group continued relationships with him after. We are in the first. No amount of stalling by people in the second group will change that. Everyone, especially MAGA, expects answers, not scapegoats. So here says the DOJ dumped thousands of documents and hundreds of photos on its website Friday, and supposedly obtained by authorities during investigations into Epstein and Maxwell's sex trafficking cases. Other photos showed interior and exterior views of Epstein's properties, personal photos of Epstein and various people, and heavy redacted potential victim exhibits. Comer warns contempt as Clinton's face January dates for Epstein probe depositions. It says, while more than a dozen politically known individuals appeared in the files, Clinton and other notable figures' inclusion in the files does not necessarily imply wrongdoing. The document drop was triggered by the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Now, these are some of the images that are being shown. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about that stuff? This is more information that is coming out day by day. Now, of course, everybody is still waiting for all the bombshell news concerning President Donald Trump and if he will indeed be on these files that shows him doing any type of, lewd acts or incriminating him in any type of way. People are saying that he's going on a rampage or a spree to redact everything as fast as possible. Now, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what comes out. We'll see as we continue to cover this, as more information comes out. But we also have seen the Biden administration, who, it says here, the Biden White House coordinated raid of Trump's Mar-a-Lago, then took convo offline, ex-DOJ official. Now, this is very interesting because people were saying, well, the Biden administration didn't do any sort of weaponization against Trump or anybody. No, absolutely not. That's not what we're looking at here. Well, more of this information is going to continue coming out, only to reveal how corrupt the Biden administration was, proving the naysayers wrong. The Biden White House was coordinating with the Department of Justice about an FBI search for classified documents at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence before taking their conversation offline, according to Attorney General Pam Bondi, former Chief of Staff Chad Mizell. Mizell told the Post in an exclusive interview Wednesday that he reviewed smoking gun emails between officials in former President Joe Biden's White House counsel's office, Merrick Garland's DOJ, and the National Archives and Record administration in the months before the execution of a search warrant at the Palm Beach, Florida resort on August 8th, 2022. It says, quote, we have concrete evidence that the Biden's White House was very much involved in the most unprecedented, unjust, and improper law enforcement act really in the history of our country, which is to use the FBI to raid the home of a political rival and former president of the United States, Mizell said. Now we're going to take a look at this clip here because this tells you a lot more concerning this information. Here we go.
What I think is this. Now, let me be crystal clear to start off. I'm not accusing my Democrat colleagues of being Nazis, but what I'm saying is they're using the exact same tactics, techniques, and procedures that the Nazis used, and the Stasi, the East German equivalent of the KGB, used against their political opponents. When we weaponize government to try to eliminate a political opponent, to deny the American public the ability to choose their leaders, that is actually fascism. And it's not.
He calls it. He literally says it right out loud. That what they did was actually fascism. God bless you for your wonderful super chat. You say, all I got to say is these Dems mad as heck. I'm going to say it that way. That those fake photos Dems trying to push were from a beauty pageant. Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy? They say they have all this evidence, all these damning photos, which we went over the live show. God bless you again, Tristan. Appreciate it. And it's just crazy. We begin to show those who are completely against Trump, and I get it. You can have your opposition, your views, and all of that stuff is fine. This is what this chat is for. This is what it is all for. But they only tried to convict him, which they successfully did, only to call us, those who voted for him, who voted for the convicted felon. They just wanted that title. But we saw immediately after the amount of donations that came into the Trump administration or the campaign prior to the election, he still won. He won the popular vote. He won all 7 swing states. This is crazy. God bless you, Toon. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I just don't understand. God bless you for another super chat. God, it's so wonderful. It says, Dems mad, and look who's in those files, Democrats. Even Hillary being accused of hunting girls on Epstein Island. Hillary Clinton is, the things that she's said on live television concerning white Christian males. But they're mad. They're absolutely mad. And so this is what we see concerning Jack Smith and what he did to weaponize the government against their political opponents, as to what we've seen happen in Russia, what we've seen happen in many parts of that region. We've seen the pause of really, what happened in Venezuela with Maduro. We're seeing what's happening in Mexico with the drug cartels who are completely running. I didn't even have this video for you. I'm sorry about that, guys. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And there we have it. My camera died.
Not okay. And these people, this Jack guy, forget about it. That dude needs to go to prison.
You know, Jack Smith's case against Trump was dismissed after a judge ruled he had been improperly appointed special counsel without a vote from the Senate. He wasn't confirmed. But, you know, what do you make of this? Internal FBI and Justice Department communications released this week by Senator Chuck Grassley show that the FBI in the weeks before the raid did not believe DOJ officials had probable cause and FBI agents did not have probable cause to execute that search warrant on Mar-a-Lago, but that DOJ officials and former special counsel Jack Smith's team overrode them in that dispute.
Here we go, guys. Look, I'm sorry for my video feed. My camera died. It's just some issues that I'm having with my charger. So I'm going to keep going here because, look, we have many other things to go over. Of course, we have AOC, who's looking good for the polls beating Vance in 2028. It says here from The Hill, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is increasingly seen as a potential Democrat candidate for 2028, on Wednesday highlighted a poll showing her beating Vice President Vance, in a hypothetical matchup. Now, for anybody who's, really continuing to support her, I honestly don't understand how you could. Wow, you are honestly so generous. Thank you so much. You say, why can't liberal Dems realize that the Dems don't care about America? I'm going to agree with you. They don't. They care more about illegals stealing loads of money. Look at Minnesota caring more about drug runners that harm Americans with poison, and then they cry. Now, it's interesting because we are actually going to go over some of the news concerning the slew of evidence, or rather more information coming out about the fraud happening in Minnesota. We have $18 billion that has been given to 14 separate, these government. What are these supposed to be? These government. Gosh, I cannot think of the name. Government programs. Jeez. And they're investigating all of it. All of it. It's getting crazy, and it's getting worse. It was said that it was only $1 billion first, and then it's $2 billion, and then possibly $6 billion, and then possibly $18 billion. So let's go back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in a moment here. For the moment, it says both Ocasio-Cortez and Vance have had their name floated for the 2028 presidential race, which will be the first Trump-era race after President Trump reaches his constitutional limit for holding the office. God bless you again for another wonderful super chat. Dems want to destroy America and turn it communist. This is what we see with Zoran Mamdani. We've even played clips of what the man, Bernie Sanders, on a podcast, who said he wants to indeed do what Mamdani did in New York all across the nation. They want to copy that same motto. And crazy to think. Now, I might try to see if, just do this. That's better. There we go. Just put my FaceTime thing here. And we'll work with that. How about that? Thanks for that, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll just do the FaceTime camera. That works. That works okay. So, here we go. We don't have to stop the show for the sake of a camera dying. So this is what's happening with Ocasio-Cortez. But for those that want to, here's actually a reaction to, or somebody going up to her on the street talking about this poll, and this is her response.
Reaction, or do you think that you could beat J.D. Vance in a head-to-head race for president, as polling suggests, in 2028?
Listen, these polls, like 3 years out, are, they are what they are, but let the record show.
I like how she says these polls, they are what they are. They're probably not going to mean anything. So when we get to that 2028, who knows? Will she stick all the way through it? Another wonderful super chat. You say, and guess what? Mandarin went back on everything he promised and lied through his teeth. We saw the things that he's beginning to do leading up to. I mean, he's making all of these inspirational videos that the mayor is listening. I don't know. We really have to we're following. We're going to keep up with his, especially, it's going to be so interesting to see what happens when he actually takes office. To see what kind of radical transformation that we see happening in New York. According to him, he wants to see the headlines read, Mamdani continues to take on Trump, delivers on affordability agenda. That's what he wants to have the headlines read a year from now.
I would stomp him. I would stomp him.
So I get the playfulness and all that stuff, but this is the same Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who apparently spent $50,000 in Puerto Rico on high-end hotels catering.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez under scrutiny after FEC filings show her campaign spending nearly $50,000 in Puerto Rico on hotels, meals, and a venue rental at the arena where she was seen dancing it up during a Bad Bunny concert. Correspondent Sarah Williamson has the very latest for us. Sarah?
Hey, Lydia, look, you're allowed to have fun,
That's
but
right.
on campaign money, I'm not so sure about. It's not exactly the best look because these newly filed federal records show that AOC's campaign spent nearly $50,000 in Puerto Rico over just a few months, fueling criticism, of course, of a lawmaker who has built her entire brand railing against wealth, privilege, elites, and excess. Now, Federal Election Commission filings show that for the third quarter, that AOC's campaign reported nearly 50 grand in spending in Puerto Rico just between the months of June and September. The filings list high-end hotels, meals and catering, and event-related expenses paid for, all with campaign funds. The records also show about $23,000 spent on a venue rental in Puerto Rico, the same venue, in fact, that AOC was seen in a private suite at the Bad Bunny concert.
So are we really going to have AOC, and sorry for the camera shake, guys, are we really going to have her run this country? Is that something we want? I mean, she's almost basically a Kamala Harris. Her politics are just whack. But she's leading in the polls 3 years prior. Will this stick? I mean, I don't know. But it's interesting that we talk about this because the Democrat National Committee blocks the release of its 2024 election autopsy. So what is going on here? Why wouldn't they release any of this? It says the Democrat National Committee is refusing to release its autopsy of the party's major 2024 losses. It announced on Wednesday, breaking chair Ken Martin's public pledge to do so. It says the decision underscores the party's challenges in grappling with its electoral setbacks as it heads into what is expected to be a stronger midterm year, which midterms are indeed a very important because it shows us, it really shows us where the country is going to, what direction it's going to head in. And we may unfortunately see it looking bad for the momentum that we're seeing right now. And this is why many are talking about nuking the filibuster. This is why many are talking about obviously the redistricting and what's happening and what's happening with Texas and then what's going to trigger with California and everything that's going down. The Supreme Court ruling on the Texas map saying that it's not racially drawn. So we have so much to look forward to within the next couple of months, especially with midterms on its way. We're really talking a lot about people who are honestly saying there's this great divide happening within the conservative movement because of Charlie Kirk's assassination, that he was one of the men that were really holding it all together when it comes to the conservatives. So look, when it comes to midterms, when it comes to showing out, when it comes to doing the work, it's hard to do the work, but you just got to do it. Do the research, get it done, so you can help people to understand. I mean, look, you really want to have a country that is falling apart, where you're getting less wages, you're getting I mean, a lot harder for Americans to get jobs, and instead going to H-1B visas or illegals. We've seen so many issues with the CDLs in California. It's just bad. We have Christmas around the corner, which, guys, thanks for joining me on this stream. But Christmas is around the corner, and what we see here with the FBI, who foiled a New Year's Eve terror plot. We have Christmas, we have New Year's Eve. We saw what happened on Bondi Beach in Australia with the Jews. I mean, if you've seen these videos, I mean, look at the heroes. An old woman and an old man that were trying to take down a shooter. You have this man who was solo, who was crouched behind a car and took the gun from one of them. I don't know if it was the father or the son, but these were Muslim extremists. We also have the Muslim who took down one of them. Heroic, very heroic. That guy needs to be applauded. But this was clearly targeted at Jews, and this typically happens during their celebrations, such as Hanukkah, such as Yom Kippur. This has happened throughout history, time and time again. And so thank God the man who went and intervened and is indeed he's alive. He did get injured, but he's alive. Thank God. And so this man deserves most certainly some type of reward. And so we also see what is happening with the identified suspect of the Brown shooter from Brown University, an MIT professor, which apparently this guy knew. Let's see here. So the motive that sought after suspect in Brown University shooting MIT professor's killing found dead. They found him in a locker with self-inflicted wound based on autopsy reports. Now, what's interesting is, I don't know. I don't know how all this stuff works. This is not my field, obviously. But why wouldn't we get an autopsy report immediately after Charlie Kirk assassination? Now, I'm going to trust what the Turning Point team has been saying concerning this. We've got a lot of people who disagree, obviously, with Turning Point, and people who agree with Candace Owens. But especially with the live stream that she did afterwards, look, I don't think Erica put all her cards on the table, telling her all the intel. Because Candace Owens, she's been making a lot of money on this. And honestly, I don't know. Can we trust her, really? I don't think so. But here it says the suspect in the December 13th mass shooting on the campus of Brown University was found dead by suicide Thursday night in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. Authorities said that he has been identified. Now, this has been 5 days since there was no leads, no nothing. Identified as a 48-year-old Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, a former Brown grad student. 2 students were killed and 9 were wounded in the shooting. Valente is also believed to be responsible for the shooting death of an MIT professor 2 days later in Brooklyn, Massachusetts, federal prosecutors said late Thursday. Officials said the suspect previously attended the same university in Portugal as the MIT professor who was killed, 47-year-old Nuno, not sure how to pronounce his last name, Loureiro. Both studied physics and are believed to have known each other. Of course, the autopsy report showed that he was estimated to have died on the 16th of December. Brown shooting occurred in the school's Barris and Holly Engineering Building during final exams in the first floor classrooms where students were taking part in a study session. Investigators had struggled to obtain clear security images despite the many cameras on campus. All this stuff it's just so interesting how all this works, in the sense that how are we not able to obtain clear footage when it comes to the Brown University, when it comes to the Utah Valley University? We also have the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino saying he will step down in January. Interesting. We have a lot of stuff that we're seeing in the horizon when it comes to where this sort of the shift will begin to happen within the MAGA movement, within America, and everything with that. Now, people are talking about Susie Wiles. People are talking about, look, what she said about Trump, what she said about J.D. Vance. She then clarified. And she said this on X. The article published early this morning is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Significant context was disregarded, and much of what I and others said about the team and the president was left out of the story. I assume after reading it that it was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. The truth is, the Trump White House has already accomplished more in 11 months than any other president has accomplished in 8 years. And that is due to the unmatched leadership and vision of President Trump, for whom I have been honored to work for the better part of a decade. None of this will stop our relentless pursuit of making America great again. Now, this is a take on what might have happened regarding this Vanity Fair interview, and this is Mark Halperin on the Turning Point show, the Charlie Kirk show. Here we go.
Well, first of all, a normal White House official who said these things would be fired. But instead, you're seeing rallying around Susie. You can go on X and see plenty of people, senators and White House officials saying, we love Susie, echoing her line that this was all a media hit job. And the vice president was asked about it. He was pretty supportive too. My guess, and I don't know this, but my guess, just from knowing the two people involved, the guy who was writing it down and the White House chief of staff, is my guess is she thought this stuff was off the record. That would be my guess. And she didn't intend to say it. Now, some of it, as you guys just said, it's not super controversial, and some of it's emphatically true, but it's a little bit off key for her to be saying it. She's not someone who seeks the limelight. She's not someone, it's the opposite. She puts a premium on people getting along. So like I said, if I had to guess, I guess that she didn't think this stuff was for publication. It was a misunderstanding between her and Chris Whipple.
Yeah, so let's put up 171. This is her tweet. She says, the article published early this morning is a disingenuous framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Significant content.
Now, as we just read that, we're going to skip past this, but somebody said in the chat, Jews killed Kirk. Look, there's no evidence that points to the Jews killing Charlie Kirk at all. Despite some of the things that people were taking out of context when it comes to Charlie Kirk turning against the movement, the pro-Israel movement, some of the text concerning, they're planning to kill me, in some of the private messages that were shared, and what was actually said when it comes to Erica and Candace Owens having this interview, this private interview, saying that this was actually regarding the left. Charlie Kirk was actually talking about the left is going to kill me. Now, she says this on her podcast. And so This is what we have. We have this continued conspiracy theory that the Jews are all in on it. And that is far from the truth, because there is literally no evidence that points to this at all. No evidence that will truthfully, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to see. There's a lot of things that we need to know about this that is concerning. But we won't even see anything till next year. In when? May or March? Forget. Of course, January, but then we're going to see more later. So crazy stuff, guys. We're going to end the show here. And if you guys have any final thoughts for me, please share them with me, freedom@equallyyokedshow.com. And I would like to know your thoughts concerning that. And guys, look, we're not looking to an administration for hope. We're not looking to an administration for our salvation. We ultimately know that our salvation is the Lord Jesus Christ, and he's the only one that provides us our salvation when it comes to this Christmas season, that we are, that we cannot lose sight of this, especially with the holiday sort of, everything that is the chaos that surrounds the holidays, the chaos that surrounds with, family time and all that stuff. Good chaos, bad chaos, all that stuff. The Lord is the one that brings the chaos into order. And so I pray that you guys would invite the Lord into your homes. You would invite the Lord into your celebration. And we've seen what may come about with possible, with what we see in the FBI concerning the New Year's Eve attacks, where they foiled it. We're seeing what's happening in Nigeria, where 13 were kidnapped. I believe it's 13. Mike Winger warned about this and is trying to get the administration to somehow take notice of this. And the Nigerians are in trouble. Our Christian brothers and sisters. And we need to make this aware. And mainstream media is not going to cover this. Mainstream media is not going to talk about this, of course. But the Nigerian Christians that are there, our brothers and sisters, are getting persecuted like no other. Like biblical type of persecution of what we've seen happen in, with the conversion, really the conversion of, especially during the Roman times, but the conversion of Saul of Tarshish, or Tarsus, I forget, it's Tarshish, I think, who turns Paul. This is very concerning. But guys, email me your final thoughts, freedom@equallyyokedshow.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless you. And thank you so much for the wonderful super chats, Tristan, and God bless you all. And I pray you guys have a wonderful Saturday. For those that are working, God bless you. And I pray that you continue to have a wonderful day and a wonderful night. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.